Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the incredible corporate journey of Indra Nooyi. We're going to break down her rich, fascinating life story and transform it into an actionable leadership playbook. We'll explore exactly how a young girl from Madras, India, navigated her way through elite academic institutions, aggressively climbed the corporate ladder, and ultimately restructured one of the largest food and beverage empires in the entire world. Right, let's kick things off with a story from her childhood, because it really set the ultimate standard of accountability for this future CEO. When Nooyi was a kid and fell short on a task, her paternal grandfather, who happened to be a judge, didn't just give her a light, everyday scolding. No, he would actually make her write the phrase, "I will not make excuses," 200 times on a piece of paper. Imagine doing that. It's a stark, early lesson in absolute ownership, and honestly, it's a trait that would come to define her entire executive career. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We are going to cover early lessons in leadership, followed by the PepsiCo ascent, then her strategic masterstrokes, performance with a purpose, and finally, a lasting legacy. Part 1. Early lessons in leadership. So we begin our story in Madras, India, now known as Chennai, where Nooyi was born back in 1955. She grew up in a middle-class family that fostered a uniquely competitive and intellectually rigorous environment. This was a foundation that had absolutely nothing to do with inherited corporate wealth, and literally everything to do with cultivating a razor-sharp mind. Get this, despite lacking a formal education herself, her mother essentially built Nooyi's executive mindset right at the family dinner table. She would devise these intense strategic games for her daughters, literally instructing Nooyi and her sister to draft a speech detailing what they would do if they suddenly held a massive position of power, like the president or prime minister. They were debating global leadership strategies before they even hit high school. And her academic and early career built on that foundation incredibly fast. She conquered elite institutions in India, grabbing degrees in physics, chemistry, and mathematics, which she followed up with a diploma from the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. Oh, and she wasn't just hitting the books. She excelled at cricket and even played guitar in an all-girl rock band. Seriously. By 1978, she moved to the U.S. to attend the Yale School of Management, and from there, she cut her teeth in the high-stakes, hyper-competitive worlds of the Boston Consulting Group and Motorola. She was constantly proving her strategic chops across entirely different industries. Section 2, the PepsiCo ascent. All right, fast forward to 1994. This is the pivotal year she joined the company and began a relentless structural climb to the very top of the corporate food chain. Just look at how methodical she was in her rise. Starting out driving strategy as Senior Vice President of Strategic Planning, she completely proved herself indispensable. Within 6 years, she was named Chief Financial Officer. A year later, President. And by 2006, just 12 short years after joining the company, she became only the 5th CEO in PepsiCo's 44-year history. She didn't just skip steps, she mastered every single operational and financial level of the business along the way. Number 3, strategic masterstrokes. Now, as she climbed, she didn't just casually manage the company. She fundamentally altered PepsiCo's DNA through some massive, high-stakes financial maneuvers, moves that required immense foresight and, quite frankly, a lot of courage. For example, while she was leading corporate strategy, she spearheaded the 1997 divestiture of Tricon. You probably know them today as Yum Brands, the corporate umbrella for Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell. She spun off these massive restaurant chains specifically to generate the financial leverage PepsiCo desperately needed at the time. This massive cash injection allowed the company to increase the pace of its share buybacks, which effectively silenced Wall Street critics and gave her the exact leverage she needed to pursue huge future acquisitions without facing a shareholder backlash. So what does she do with that leverage? Well, Nooyi pushed hard for the acquisition of Tropicana in 1998 for $3.3 billion. It was a move that initially faced really heavy opposition from other executives. But she didn't stop there. In 2001, she worked on the mega merger with the Quaker Oats Company. And why Quaker Oats? Because they owned Gatorade. This incredibly lucrative move suddenly gave PepsiCo 80% of the sports drink market, handing them massive leverage over their ultimate rival, Coca-Cola, and their second-place sports drink, Powerade. A real game changer. And wow, did those strategic masterstrokes literally pay off? Because of those structural changes and bold acquisitions, PepsiCo's annual net profit absolutely skyrocketed, rising from $2.7 billion to a staggering $6.5 billion during her tenure. Part 4. Performance with a purpose. Now here is where Nooyi really separates herself from your standard corporate executive. She knew that long-term survival wasn't just about driving profits for the next quarter. It required a total cultural overhaul to meet the demands of a rapidly changing world. She actually pioneered this exact philosophy, literally coining the phrase performance with a purpose. She actively shifted the company away from being seen merely as a giant junk food conglomerate. Under her incredibly focused direction, PepsiCo heavily prioritized sustainability, redesigning packaging to reduce waste, conserving water, and aggressively switching over to renewable energy sources. She deeply understood that a modern company simply must leave a positive footprint. Think about your own workplace or how you categorize products when you go shopping. Nooyi radically reclassified PepsiCo's entire massive portfolio into 3 very distinct tiers: fun for you, better for you, and good for you. She then restructured corporate spending entirely, moving money away from their traditional junk foods and heavily pushing the better and good tiers. She even took the incredibly bold step of temporarily removing aspartame from Diet Pepsi in 2015 due to health concerns. She was totally willing to tinker with flagship legacy products if it meant better consumer health. But let's be real, driving that much change is incredibly stressful on a company's leadership. To ensure employee retention during these massive cultural shifts, she took a deeply personal approach to leadership. She actually took the time to write heartfelt, handwritten letters to the parents of her executive leadership team, and she even took the time to visit their homes. Can you imagine your CEO writing to your parents? It created a deeply loyal, humanized culture within what was otherwise a massive, high-pressure corporate machine. Section 5. A lasting legacy. By the time she finally stepped down as CEO in 2018, her impact on the global business landscape was completely undisputed. She was leaving behind a vastly different company than the one she originally took over. 12 years. She held the CEO position for a dozen years. To put that into perspective, that is 7 years longer than the average tenure for a large company CEO. She survived and thrived in literally one of the most demanding jobs on earth. And incredibly enough, she later claimed she never once asked for a pay raise while at PepsiCo. That's despite earning a reported $87 million between 2015 and 2017 alone. Her performance simply dictated her value. And you know what? Her training ground lessons from those dinner table strategy games in Madras never stopped applying. Since leaving PepsiCo, she took her world-class expertise to the board of directors at Amazon. She became the International Cricket Council's first independent female director, merging her early love for the game with her business acumen. She even stepped up to public service, serving as co-chair of the reopened Connecticut Advisory Group to help navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. On top of all the whole shebang, she became the largest alumni donor in the entire history of the Yale School of Management. So, as we wrap up this explainer on an absolute corporate trailblazer, here's a question I want to leave you with. Ask yourself, how can you apply these lessons? How can you merge relentless strategy with genuine purpose in your own professional journey to leave a legacy that far outlasts your tenure? Think about it.